GBV has become a norm, which shouldn't be the case. I have been a victim, but today I choose to speak out for myself and for other women out there. Let us raise our voice against GBV, and we can fight it together.
And welcome to the Raised Voices podcast. This is episode 5, and today we are focusing on the participation of men in the fight against GBV. And we are joined by guests from both Zambia and Canada. This is going to be exciting. Over to you, folks.
So good to be here. I guess we'll start off with introductions. Hayden, do you want to go?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Hayden Leo. Currently sitting on the board of IDEA. Though I started out with IDEA in the gender-based violence program years ago. I don't even remember, like 13 years ago. It feels like. I think it's around there. Yeah, I think it was like 20 years old or something when I started with IDEA. And then we just never let go. So I'm like super excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Hayden. And I'll pass it over to my colleagues in Zambia. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Thank you very much. I'm Audrey Chimba. I'm one of the elders here. I am a lecturer at the National Institutes of Public Administration. I'm a lecturer in gender studies.
All right. My name is Mr. Paul Chiundia. I'm the Dean of Students at DMIS and Chijin University.
My name is Joseph Dembo. I'm a student from DMIS and Chijin University.
My name is Emmanuel Lungu. I'm a student at the University of Zambia, also serving as the current director of programs for the TV platform, the university, then also a member of the Young Men's Christian Association.
Okay, thank you so much. And I guess I'll introduce myself. Tanse spimisa tim siga sun maskuchi sochinia, guamiana, I snewachi I sinawik. My traditional name is Skyhorse, but in English you can call me Farada, and I'm based at the Treaty 6 and Treaty 7 lands of Canada, and I worked with Videa as part of their climate team, and currently we're working with the North Saskatchewan Rivershed to restore fish populations and native species. And I guess that'd be it for my introduction. Thank you. We've heard from students and elders in both Zambia and Canada about the importance of including men and boys in discussions about gender-based violence. Can you share about what you have learned or from your own life experiences about why men and boys need to be part of these discussions? Hayden, you're up first.
Yeah, for sure. I guess one of the things I learned, just having that kind of knowledge and stuff is real helpful for men and boys. Like, ignorance is been a big part of like developing this thing and why it's good to include both men and boys, just because people grow up with a certain mindset kind of thing, and this is maybe like a new thing for them, especially in some other communities compared to others and stuff. Like traveling around, going to different communities, you could see like a shift on like how they kind of their culture is kind of like grown that kind of certain mentalities and stuff. So it's just maybe something new for both, or for even myself, kind of thing, going into that role of gender equality and stuff. So just having new knowledge, it's helped me a long way.
Agreed. A fresh perspective is always useful, and I'm so grateful us men and boys get to sit and talk about this important topic. And I'd like to pass it over to my colleagues, Michael and Co. Your go.
Thank you very much. So it is very important for men and boys to be involved in the fight against gender-based violence, because men, in most cases, are the perpetrators of gender-based violence. So it would be kind of unwise for us to sideline men in the fight because they are the cause of gender-based violence, because there's no way we can solve a problem. We can bring a solution to a problem minus addressing the actual problem. So once they're involved, and in most cases, men listen to men. So if men can be involved in the fight against GBV, and they could speak out and talk to other men on the dangers of GBV, so it would be very helpful to build stronger society and safer communities. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe just to add on what he's just from mentioning. When you look at GBV, it is mostly common when you look at women and girls, but it is also common in men and boys. Now, men also play an important role in also molding or acting as role models to the boys that are growing up. So you're looking at the involvement of men being something that will change the generation in years to come. The behavior and attitude of how us men look at GBV can mold or change the young generation that is growing. If, for example, now we are looking at GBV being something that we need to actually talk about, if we are silent as men, it's equal to us supporting the existence of this vice. So when we speak against it, we are also making the young generation, the boys that are growing up to be men, to be aware of this vice and also to change the attitude and behavior. In so doing, we are also involving now a more bigger number of men and boys taking the front role or being actively involved in all these platforms and the discussions.
Okay. So just to push it further from where he has ended. So like they both have put it, because if you involve men in the fight against GBV, then we are solving the problem, because men actually, like that, say, men perpetrators, cases rising, like for example, and if you look at the cases here in Zambia alone, last year we had over 40,000, in 2023 we had over 40,000 GBV cases. Out of that, of which about 80% was men who are perpetrators in such cases. So if we involve men in this fight, it really helps solve that problem. It also goes down to the core of the problem. Over time, apart from the tradition that existed a long time ago, which is the original tradition, which respected women's rights and acknowledged that they can also perform when given an opportunity to do so. Over time, that changed. Men are being told that they're superior than women. That changed that men, there are these narratives, men don't cry, men are above women. And then over time, that was by gender-based violence, the woman's issue. So you find that most men find it very difficult even to participate, because it seemed like it's a woman's issue for a long period of time, and people just lived in acceptance of that delusion, of that misguiding information. And now that now that we're involving men, one of the most important things are getting rid of all that, which means the next generation is coming, like you put it, they're going to grow up with the intention of saying, okay, as a man, I'm not superior than any other human being that is existing on the planet, but we are all equals. As a man, GBV is not just a woman's issue, it's something that we both have to fight. We all have to fight it as humanity. And as a man, there are certain things that, yes, of course, I can do because I'm advantaged when it comes to strength-wise, but I also have to acknowledge there's something that a woman can do that I cannot do. So if we put that in the bracket, then we accept that we are both equal, yet carry out minor differences, biologically speaking, we have biological differences. But when it comes to performance, logical reasoning, strength, we are one and the same. And so once we have that all together, it's a good thing that now men should participate in discussions as this one, because of solving that problem. We're removing it from the trap where it has been stayed.
Yes, I also agreed when one of the students said men are the perpetrators of GBV. Yes, I agree with that. But in as much as I agree to what they've said, we also need to understand that apart from men being perpetrators, we also have men who are victims of gender-based violence and sextortion. And that is the more reason why we're saying let's involve the men in the fight against gender-based violence and sextortion. Because in most cases, I don't know about Canada, but if you look at the African setup, especially from the Zambian point of view, you discover that most men suffer from emotional violence. Women are always there, talking to the men in a way that is not befitting them. They'll be there insulting the men. They'll be there saying all sorts of things against the men. And in most cases, the men will just be quiet. Meanwhile, deep down their hearts, they are suffering. So we need a situation where we involve the men. They talk about their issues. Yes, women have always been on the ground to complain. No, men are doing this. Men have done this. This man did this to me, and so on. But what about the man? So we need to ensure that we involve men so that they also come out and tell us about what they face in terms of GBV. And also, I'll also talk about the issue or the fact that once we involve the men, we'll have a better movement for change. So once we involve everyone, the men and the women, we'll find a situation where we put GBV to an end.
Yeah, I think mostly important. I think there's a point that she has mentioned, which is key as well. You have a lady that, for example, ladies that are being protected in what we believe today as GBV, it's only, for example, for protecting only the girl child and the women. So you have a lady who is, like she has mentioned, who will always be talking or maybe emotionally disturbing a man. A man might not react back. They might hold it. They might hold their emotions and whatnot, receiving the same abuse that they are trying to protect the woman from. So, for example, somebody talks to me, I know to say, I cannot, for example, beat a woman, but because of that, the woman takes advantage of that, continue to still abuse a man, especially mostly in homes and maybe in different setup, because there is this issue. When you hit me, then the tables turn and things like that. So we have seen, I think, a lot of men that cannot speak up, men that hide their emotions, that bundle their emotions. And we have seen, I think, a lot of men that have mental related issues because of these vices that are happening, because they do not have a space or platform where they could speak up. It's because the society has looked at a man crying as a way of weakness. A man shouldn't cry. A man should face the challenges, but deep down, I think it also affects them. Taking a front row or being involved and also talking about it, I feel it helps both parties, because both parties now know the advantages and disadvantages of both, and also how do you bring up a generation that looks at an issue of gender-based violence not only as protecting the other, in the due course also having power over the other gender, but being able to understand that the gender-based violence is based on an equal power relations. So you need to be able to have a balance in power. Then you are eliminating that. An equal balance in power, then you have a challenge. It's either it's on the female side or it's on the male side, and we are still having a big challenge out there.
And just as he puts it, it one feels like the talk is different from the do, when the two should be in sync. But if you find that I'm now talking from experience as a boy, or as a man, should I say, as a young man, should I say? So in most cases, gender-based violence, like they are both stated, affects the men mainly mentally. Like that's why we're mostly vulnerable. That's why most subject can't review our weaknesses. And the talk out there has it. A man can express himself. I mean, feel free as a man to talk about the challenges. Feel free to talk about all these things. But here's how it works. So when a man opens up, maybe there's a gap somewhere, and hope they can be corrected. When a man opens up about some of these problems they're going through, maybe to a woman, speaking as a young man, to a girlfriend. So you open up about these issues, and then suddenly over time you realize that your girlfriend will change the way they treat you. It just has either an indirect or direct impact on how they view you. Some women who do not value gender roles, or gender rights rather, they'll even go as far as using that same emotional emotional disadvantage that you have, you opened up to them to use it against you. So now it becomes an issue of they are aware of men's mental health being the current talk, but they still go on ahead to act against it deliberately. This is what is, I don't know if you're aware, this is what is happening in.
And just to support what you've said, you know why it's like that? Because of the belief in patriarchy. As a society, we feel a man is supposed to be aggressive. A man should take up the lead. So the moment you come across a boy or a man who's showing signs of weaknesses, according to us, the women, I should say us because I'm part of it, we tend to do things that will hurt these men. So why we are saying we need to involve the men, it's because of what we need to get rid of these patriarchal beliefs and norms where we feel a man is supposed to be dominant, a man is supposed to be aggressive. Because if you look at a young, not you people, you're saying you're young men, but if you look at the boys in school, you find that they start training them from an early age. You look at a child who's maybe 4 years, 5 years. Look at the toys that we buy for them. If I have a baby boy, I'll buy a gun for this boy. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to tell this man or this boy to say, you are a man, you can have a gun. Okay. When a boy is crying, don't cry. You are a man. Okay. So it starts from that early stage. Okay. So now this boy will grow up knowing that I'm a man, I'm supposed to dominate. Where there are girls, I'm supposed to lead. Okay. So the boy who's 5, 6 will grow up to maybe to be 20, 30 years, and they'll still have that belief to say, I'm a man, and because I'm a man, I'm supposed to be strong. I can beat a woman and nothing will happen to me. So that is the more reason why I say, let's involve the men. Let's involve the boys so that they know to say, this gender-based violence we're talking about, sextortion, it's not a way of solving situations or problems, okay? We can do better. So we need to bring everyone on board.
Yes, I agree. Just really quick, I wanted to add, like on the Canadian front, like I come from a cultural background. My people are the Cree and the Stoney Nakoda, and we have relations with the Lakotas down south in America. And there's just so many teachings that the culture can help the current boys because colonial practices have changed our dynamics with the other gender. And one of them, back in the traditional sense that I was always told, is that a boy becomes a man when he learns how to cry again. And for the longest time, I didn't understand what that meant until I went through it. Because there was a period where I listened to that old stuff where, men can't cry. And then I ended up getting angry and I would do things that would hurt those around me. So once I started crying, that things started to heal. And I've learned that crying isn't just sad tears. There's happy tears, there's laughing tears. Like there's just so many parts of you that open up once you reclaim your emotional part of yourself. And and we come back to learning that it's not a weakness, it's a strength. And as men, it's healthier. Over on GBV, gender-based violence in Canada, we have the MMIWG movement, which is the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls movement. And the reason it's there is because as men, we've kind of forgot our role, which is to protect and provide for the woman. And now there's people coming all over the world who deliberately target Indigenous women and girls. And because of racism, the police won't investigate the crimes or investigate who did it. So there's so many, like thousands of these of women and girls being targeted and killed, murdered for sex trafficking and all that. Even my own mother and auntie were murdered. And it really got me to wake up and realize that things have to change, that it's important for men and boys to come up to these discussions and say, no more GBV. We have to do better. And I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Shall we move on to the next prompt? If so, prompt number 2. How can we work together to better support men and boys to take action on GBV in their own communities? I'll pass it to you, Hayden.
Yeah, for sure. Like, super great topic you guys are talking about. Makes me like, oh man, opens my eyes. Like, just the amount of people that are like working on this stuff right now, kind of thing. Like, I've been away from that group for a while, but like, I've never stopped practicing the kind of stuff I've learned from that group when I was part of it a couple of years ago and stuff. But yeah. So I think one of the best supports we could do is actually just like talking to people that are kind of like, just that don't know about it or anything, like I've had family members that are still kind of like in that area where, they're like you said, like much more superior. They think they're much more superior than other genders and stuff. And I just, even myself being able to talk to them an adult kind of thing. I'm like, hey, that's not cool. This is, you know, I grew up with you for like a really long time kind of thing. Like, this is not how you treat another person kind of thing. Like, just being able to call people out or even just talk to people, like in a sense kind of thing, just to make sure we're all, you know, moving towards like a better goal, but also, that we're making sure everyone's safe in our community and stuff. Because we have just the way it's split right now. You get the young people coming up, um, talking about like some of the kids I've seen in school now. Like, this is one of the big topics that's brought up, and having them kind of keeping the ball rolling for gender based what do you call it, gender based values kind of thing, I guess. um but yeah, just talking to people, I think, is one of the biggest things, because like I said, I still see people in my life that are still in the headspace. Oh, yeah, well, yeah. Sorry.
Thank you, Hayden. You're right. And I also liked what our brother said in Zambia, that we have to say something because our silence means that we're supporting GBV. And as men, it's up to us to say something, anything. And I'll pass it back to my brothers in Zambia.
Picking it up from there. So how we can help men work towards fighting GBV. So first of all, we should create safe spaces where men and boys can freely express themselves. So we can focus on structures that have men in them, like schools, universities, churches, whereby a safe space can be created just for men to express themselves, what they are going through, and what they think can be done. As I stated earlier, that men listen to men, and there's still that mentality in men whereby they can't listen to a woman on certain issues. So if a man was to speak out against this vice, it would be very important for other men, and they would take it by heart that since a man has said it, we're supposed to act towards it. And the other thing is that we should educate early, as he said, that boys should grow up with a mentality knowing that GBV shouldn't be allowed, it shouldn't be tolerated in our society. So education should start from the infancy stage, whereby as a boy is growing, they should have that in mind, and should be continuously, not to a certain extent, whereby when they reach a certain age, they should stop hearing about GBV and sextortion issues.
Okay. So also, he has already stated, actually, education, one of the most key fundamental things that we have to put into consideration. I'll ask academicians that we have here, is this included in the curriculum for junior primary school?
Not really, as it's not a subject, but you find that some issues are addressed. I'll give an example of the social studies syllabus. You find that there'll be a section on gender-based violence. If you go to even, I know you talked about junior secondary school, yes, but even if you go to senior secondary school, we have a subject called civic education. After that one, it even has a unit on gender-based violence. This is where we talk about sexual harassment. We talk about different issues affecting the boys and the girls in schools. Even at tertiary level, there it's obvious we have courses where students are taught about gender-based violence. So to answer your question, yes, we have in some subjects components of gender-based violence.
So I'm going to use this opportunity to really educate myself, since I already have experts here. So I'm going to learn from this. So let me ask another question, just a follow-up question. As an academician, are those provisions that we have in this syllabuses enough? Are they yielding the results, intended results?
On that one, it's a two-way thing. When you look at the lessons that are being done in the classroom, mostly for them, they are circled around marks. Somebody will learn a topic today, get 90 out of 100, you ask them tomorrow, they'll forget what they've done. I feel it is more of a practical than it being on a theoretical part, where sometimes I think looking at real life situations, somebody that has gone through that, storytelling, in other words, seeing how it has affected somebody and also how somebody has actually come out of it, I think that is more an important part. You look at everything that we learn as just something that you relate. It's not out there, like something that is just fiction. This is how some of these issues that are there are taken. So as much as it is there in the curriculum, I feel there is also need of intensifying with backed up activities, talks, forums, workshops, seminars, addressing the issue on a more global part, rather than just it being in class, because they'll take it as, I just need to score marks. Tomorrow they'll forget about what they have learned. So as much as they're learning, there should be an aspect of either having a separate unit, especially in guidance and counseling units that schools and even universities have, to talk about it frequently during their, I know in secondary schools and primary schools, there are assemblies on a Monday and sometimes even on a Friday where they're giving announcements. A small talk about it. Every week, a small talk about it. You do that for over a year. You're looking at close to about 39 weeks of talking about it in our Zambian education calendar. It actually sticks in somebody's mind over time. By doing so, you are also extending now to the families and all that. Yeah.
So I was asking those questions because I've come to notice that, I don't know if it's a global thing, but we're very good with theory. So good at it. So I was asking that question because if there is a way in which we can translate theory into a lifestyle, then that would really help us a lot. And I'll give an example. Zambia, I've only been to Zambia, so I'll talk a lot about Zambia. So let's talk about faith and religion. It's how the religious structure has been built. People live it as a lifestyle. Yet it's only theory. It's in theory, but has been realized into practice. And now people are living it. It's a lifestyle. And some of these things we're fighting today come from some of these religions that sit heavily on the religion side. Because there's some religions that teaches that men are above women. For some reason.
Yeah.
So if we can then employ ways in which we can now make the fight against gender-based violence as a lifestyle for a boy child, even for a female child, then that would help us in many ways than is already. And talking about the curriculum, and people just learn, like you say, just learn for the months. They learn, they got class, they study, and they just do it for, I want to get 100%, I want to get 6 points at the end of the day. For Canadian friends in the United Kingdom, I don't know how to translate the Zambian grading system to the one that suits that side. But this, like grade 1, grade 2, when you're 5 years, supposed to be grade 1 in Zambia, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 years, grade 1 in Zambia. By the time you're 16, probably grade 12. Then 17, probably a tertiary education or university, something like that. So that's how it works here in Zambia. So there's only parts of gender-based violence in some of the, and most of these things are mostly definitions, characteristics, and they don't talk about how to approach them. So the solution part is what I feel is missing. For you to only to access the solution part, you have to go to school. Like the lecturer here who specializes in gender activities. You have to go to school and learn that for you to learn the importance of both these things. So if some of those things can be brought down and make them more practical, introduce more activities to a point where it has become like an actual religion people are practicing, it's a lifestyle. So I feel that's one of the ways that we can solve this. I just don't know how you can just, bridge the gap between theory and lifestyle.
Yeah. So you're looking at, because you're looking at attitude,
Yes.
then behavior.
Yes.
So we need to be able to change the attitude in order to have a desired behavior towards GBV and all that. The perception, change the perception, including men in more of these gender-based campaign, having one that is being led by men. We have seen most of the gender issues are being led by women. You see them that they're the ones taking the front row. But having a male or men-led campaign, GBV, carries more weight. Like I think Joyous has mentioned to say that there's men would tend to listen more to another man. Even when I want to cry, I might not cry in front of a woman, but I'll cry if a man is in front of me, because I know to say I'm protected in that particular area, which is now the safe space that we are talking about, where they are free. Like Jacob has mentioned that only when you cry, that's when you really know who you are at that particular point. And the biggest challenge is also that sometimes as men, we don't really know our potential that we have in our societies. As a man and as a father and as an educator, as an elder in the, maybe let's say in a school setup, I think I play an important role. Whatever I might say or whatever I might do plays an important role to people that would see. In a community, even when, for example, a man is speaking, people will tend to listen. So using the same notion of my voice when I speak or say, can everyone keep quiet? Everyone will be able to listen. Using the same potential that we have to speak against the bias, I feel we can do a lot. We can do a lot. It's just that sometimes we do not know our potential that we have within.
And then let me just come in on the part of education. I feel somehow we've misunderstood education. We don't really, if we are to help the boys, the men, we don't need to put a boy in class. Okay? We need to educate them, even in our communities, so that they just become aware. So let's just come up with programs where we can sensitize these boys and these men, even when they are not in class. I think that is what we need. We need to teach them about respect. Respect, do I need to be in class for someone to teach me about respect? Anyone can teach me at home. Okay. Gender-based violence itself, we don't need someone to be in class. So I think we can still do it. We can still help these boys, not necessarily from a school setup, but even in our communities. Let's talk to the boys. Let's talk to the men. Then we'll end GBV.
Then also on the cellular. Please correct me if I'm wrong with this one. So I understand that compensation, let me just dive to the political aspect of it. So compensation on what women lost during the time when the protests against GBV were just starting, like in the early stages of them, when it comes to consideration for opportunities, access to opportunities, such things, when those things were just starting. So governments thought it wise to have laid down foundations through which women can compensate it for that. So, for example, again, I'll speak as a young man. So when you go to school, I'll lay much on school because I believe that's where the key is. So when you go to school and you're learning with your fellow female, you realize that at the end of an examination of that academic year or examination, let's talk about secondary, primary. Once you write your exams, you have your points scored. Enrollment into another school to proceed to the next grade has got different ratings, which is referred to commonly as cutoff points. The cutoff point itself is different. You find that for men is slightly higher than that for women. So yes, that is of course in providing that women have a lot to do when they knock off from school, when they go back home. Now, that is a traditional perspective of how things used to be when all the original tradition was taken away from the actual cultures that we have in Zambia. So now, I don't know if it's a question or what, these compensation methods that have been put in place, where in the case of challenging factors, men have to score higher than women, including when it comes to job opportunities. There has to be a certain percentage. For example, if they're talking about 100% employment rate, then 60% has to be dedicated to women, then 40% to men. When you talk about bursary or perhaps sponsorship education into school, you find that the criteria used, over 30% of the criteria goes to someone being a female, just being a female alone, and that favors you 30% more than a man. So doesn't that also contribute to the cause of fighting? Does that fight against GBV?
For me, I would say it contributes to some extent, because the moment you look at the cutoff point and then you say, okay, for girls it should be lower, for boys it should be higher. What am I saying? You are a boy, you are above you are better than a girl. So as a boy, I'll grow up saying, oh, okay, I'm good. This one is not good. So this one is my subordinate, you see. So you find that some of these things, yes, in as much as they've been there to help the girl child, now the boy child is also lagging behind. Okay, so we've also created a situation where now the boy is what, we've forgotten about the boy. Okay, and also in trying to prove himself that I'm also better, far much better than the girl, the boy will start abusing the girl child. I don't know, maybe you can realize that.
You like that point, because when we are in them, we have a lot of young boys. I think now we are calling them junkies. Those ones that are now in the streets. It's because the attention of our societies shifted towards the girl child, and we are also in the due course we are neglecting the boy child. The boy child that we are expecting in the future to take care of a girl child. So you have somebody that has not been trained, somebody that has not been cultured, somebody that has not been told that initially gender-based violence is a crime. It is something against the laws of the land and whatnot. So you are having a girl child that has been brought up nicely, but you are having a boy child who has been neglected. They don't know about GBV. They take it as a normal thing, like she has mentioned. They now abuse the girl child that has been taught what GBV is, that has been brought, that has been taken care of. So in bringing up men and boys in these discussions, what we are trying to do is we are trying to make sure that both are aware the vice. Not that we need to protect the other from the other, but making sure that both are aware of the vice, and we work as a team to actually eliminate these vices in our communities. Looking at what you have mentioned about the marks, it's more like trying to balance up or motivate the girl child that they can also be in these positions that men are in, but they can still be able to, for example, they can still be able to score, let's say 80, and a man might be at 95, but be placed in the same category. Not necessarily that they have an advantage over. It's more like you have scored this, but you are also better in these categories. Though that mostly it's at secondary school. When you go to university, when you talk about distinctions, it's a different level there, because they have now looked at it to say, now you have been given this. Can you now push to be better up to this point? So you see distinctions coming as distinctions, regardless of gender.
So that just then highlights one thing that we need to do to create that, like he has stated. So that allows for women to show them that they also compete with the guys,
yes,
on an equal place. Yeah. Then the notion of intellectual inferiority that may have been translated out of that has to be corrected in one way.
Yeah.
And it can only be corrected if we have men coming on board. Let's share stories about GBV. Yeah. Once we do that,
Yes.
then we'll be good to go.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes. I just wanted to mention, in the Canadian context, I really liked what y'all were saying, especially about promoting that lifestyle for boys to learn about GBV. On the cultural front, as Nehio, we have stories that teach about the roles that men and women have. And I'll just quickly share that. So a long time ago, before the earth was created, the creator, or God, went up to 4 sisters, and he asked the first sister, "I need you." And he made her the earth. Then he went to the second sister and he said, I need you. And she asked, can I be close to my sister? And he said, yes. And he made her the moon. The third sister, the same thing happened, and she became the water. And the fourth sister would be the woman, and she wanted to be close to her sisters. She was the youngest of the sisters. And then he made her, and he told them, you represent me because you can bring life to this world. And then Creator he realized he forgot to create a man. So he grabbed some mud from the earth, and then he created the man, and he told him, your job is to protect and provide for the woman. That's it, nothing else. And it's such a powerful thing when you hear young boys in culture and ceremony that can say loud and proud, like, what's your role? When the elder points at him and he says to protect and provide for the woman. And you can feel that, like he has that strength within him. Or even when a grandmother asks the woman, what's your role? And she says, I represent the creator, powerful, not all shy. Like, I represent the creator, but loud and proud, Like the culture is such a beautiful thing. And for us in the Canadian context, the young boys coming into culture and learning it, it's healthy for them because then they learn how to be healthier with the other people around them. So the biggest issue in our communities is the colonial systems where it tries to teach that men are above women and that whatever they do, it's okay. And and I guess also due to the effects of residential schools, there's been a lot of boys who have grown up without a good father figure in their life. And I think that's important is to have that positive role model. And I wanted to thank you for being that positive role model for young boys in Zambia, because it is good to see on how to carry yourself well and to speak out against GBV. And I guess we can go to the prompt 3 because I'm done, unless you want to continue this topic. Okay, we're proceeding to prompt 3. Have you seen examples of men or boys taking action on GBV in your own communities? How have they inspired you? Hayden, feel free to jump in whenever you want.
Yeah, like I said, it's becoming like you guys were talking about school stuff. We've seen a lot of young boys now in our community kind of actually actively going into that even study and stuff now, which is awesome because it's never been at the forefront of like our high schools and stuff. Like, oh, we're gonna go into gender-based studies, so it's pretty cool. So having I think those two guys go into that one. Um, Another one just in my personal family stuff, like one of my uncles who was like he went to residential school as well, and that's where he got that mindset where he was better than everybody, and had like a real negative impact on my grandma kind of thing. And then, you know, after they split up and stuff, he's like, I'm gonna go get help. He went to go talk to a bunch of people, and then he's able to kind of see what he was going through and how like residential school affected him, and like that's why he was kind of doing those that gender-based violence stuff against my grandma like years ago and stuff. And he was able to come to grips with it, and like he went to go apologize and stuff, but he's like he didn't want like forgiveness or anything, but he just wanted to like learn about himself, and you know being able to forgive himself or learn about himself more, so he's able to like grow as a person. So that's pretty inspiring to me. So I think that's pretty cool.
That is powerful, especially wanting to do better after, learning that some of the stuff from residential school wasn't exactly ours to keep anyways, and coming back and relearning those good things that are all inside us. I just wanted to say that, and I'll pass it back to my colleagues in Zambia.
Thank you very much. So, speaking from my own perspective, because I consider my dad to be my role model based on his hard work. So, as we were growing up, he told us that you're not supposed to beat a woman, and he stuck to his words. And growing up, I've never seen him raise his hands towards my mom, and that's a good example for me on my part. And in Zambia, if I could recall better, it was 2014. There is one of the artists, Brian Wembia, commonly known as Biflo, who happens to be the president of the Musician Association of Zambia, used his music to spread the word against GBV, and he was internationally recognized by the former president of the United States of America. And that also happens to inspire most of us men in our country that we are supposed to raise our voices against this vice and fight it as a country, because it's not an individual problem, but it's a problem that the entire society faces and are supposed to fight it.
Yes, pretty much also. I think on this one, the young men can dominate the talk.
Stay down from I also take part in the MY.
Okay. So basically, yes. Most celebrities now, like yes, pointed out, not only Brian Wembia, but a lot more other artists, including females. And it's good that females are not just speaking on their own, but speaking on behalf of men. Yeah. In some of these songs, if you listen to them in some of the chord tunes. So we do have, for me, I always look up to those that have gone ahead. I may sound a bit political, but the head of state, I think he has repeatedly advised young men and women to promote peace amongst each other. This is something, as we repeatedly said it every now and then. If you go for a student symposium, you're just young men, then he's speaking, he will encourage you, get a girlfriend, but maintain the peace, support each other, grow together, and then those things. So I do look up to such individuals as my role model, because these are the individuals that have gone ahead of us, and they have invested so much on the grounds that if they have grown to that extent and they still see it fit to encourage young men to live for each other, protect each other, and live together with women without issues, or rather without differences, without seeing differences and the like, then really I'm just the young man who has to follow through, because he has calculated and he has seen that's the best way to live. He has made mistakes. I mean, may have slapped the wife at some point, but I'm not saying he slapped her, no. I'm just saying he may have done that, but obviously learned. That is why he's passing down his wisdom to us young men. And it's very cardinal. I think from my community, yes, I do see a lot. I have a friend, Mike Tembo, who is also spearheading Next Generation Vision. So he speaks a lot against gender-based violence. He speaks confidently. In that time, we had the gender-based violence uproar around the country. I think he was one of the people in the forefront. And I was like, this guy is 24 years old. I'm like 24 years old as well. Why? I need to do this as well. So it did really motivate me. And I saw myself putting up posts against GBV on my status, putting up posts where we're encouraging other men to go for mental health. I never used to go for mental health myself, but at some point I did say, I think I need a counselor. I need someone to open up to, and I did that. It really does help. So yeah, we do look up to some of the people that are going to help us.
I thought you were going to talk about your organization.
Yeah.
I'm not very interested.
Well, today we had people who are graduating, mental health graduates today. And I did interviews. I interviewed a number of them. So all those have gone ahead of us. Yeah. And there's a young man again, Dr. Daddy. So still in his youth. I gotta look up to him. He's like, yo, this guy looks like he's my age. But there he's standing, teaching big people about mental health and telling them, okay, GBV is supposed to be ABCD. Like, he's a young man, but he has invested so much on the ground. I'm like, I'm gonna be him. So need to be him. So I always try championing because of those that I see doing better in life, and they respect the values. You just see how peaceful, how happy they look when they acknowledge that gender-based violence is something that men have to stand up for. And there's a man proudly standing, not ashamed. He's a man who will say, okay, men come to me if you need counseling. And there's a young man counseling other men. I'm like, it's supposed to be this. So I need to learn a few things from. And I think after this podcast, I need to give him a call in the session with him. I need to learn a few things from him.
I'll also talk about Vidya and Nyapachuma. These are organizations that are talking about GBV and sextortion. So in our communities, we have such organizations. And I'm so happy that, Lamek, you've brought on board the young men here. I'm sure from here, they won't just keep quiet. I've been inspired actually seeing the young men talk about GBV. I only hope it's not just here. When you go out, you start educating others so that everyone becomes aware of GBV and its effects. And we also need to realize, say, when we talk about GBV, yes, previously it was like, it used to sound like it was just a women's issue. Today it's a human issue, okay? Because we are talking about people's rights and so on. So in our communities, we have a lot of young men, spearheading the fight against GBV and sextortion. Just 3 weeks ago, I was surprised. A group of there were about 6 students, my former students. They approached me and said, Madam Gender, they call me Madam Gender. Madam Gender, we will be having, a workshop on gender-based violence, and we would want you to come and speak to the students. And these are young men, okay? So for me, they're doing quite a lot, because for them to organize a workshop on GBV, it means that they are interested in what the effects, and also how to put an end to GBV. Okay, so we have a lot of organizations. We have a lot of men. Our men are here.
Yeah. So I think just to add on what my colleagues have mentioned, it's I think it starts with oneself. If I need peace, I need to actually be peace myself. Then I'm extending that peace. If I'm to be inspired by somebody, I need first to be inspired by what I'm actually doing. Looking at these other people that in our societies that are doing better are talking about GBV, I need to also talk about it. So it needs to start with me. Once it starts with me, I'm seeing a generation around me that will also change because of the energy that I'm giving around. The positive energy that we spread when we sit, when we talk about certain issues, when certain issues are circulating on social media, the comments that we give through comment sections, whatever I write, whether it is for likes or whatnot, it carries a more deeper message than we just look at. So it starts with oneself. What is it that I'm about? What is it that I need to do based on GBV? Should I talk about it? Should I actually put an end about it? Should I actually help my fellow man if he's going through something? Should I be able to report if my fellow man is being abused? Should I be able to talk when a female is being abused? Whether she's being abused by my boss, whether she's being abused by somebody that I fear, somebody that is in power, what role do I play? That becomes something that we need to look at. Then from there, we are able to see people that we interact with, people that we've seen in our communities, changing the whole generation from there. And I think this is something that I think from the time that I became dean of students, I think for the past 2 years, I've felt I've looked at things differently when even students come through when they have issues of GBV. Sometimes I'm being worked up around maybe 01 because the boyfriend and the girlfriend are fighting. And these are certain issues that we deal with at universities. And in most cases, you see that the way I might handle that issue might either put that to an end or still fuel up the same vice in the university. So you will notice that the way I'll handle it, the way things will be done, the way I'll handle both sides and whatnot, it carries more weight. So it starts with me, then it extends to people that are out. Yeah.
Thank you so much. In my home community, we have the Deadly Dads, hosted by my uncle Sonny, and it's such a positive group. They do like mental health support, emotional support, but also just like fun activities for men. Because out on the reservation, some of us don't have access to lots of resources and money, so men don't get the opportunity to travel with their families. And doing that travel is really good. It helps them learn, helps them realize that changes can be made. And one important change that I've really liked is changing the thing from, instead of telling a man to man up when he's crying, just say, I'm listening. Let him feel his emotions. Let him get rid of that hurt so that he makes something positive out of it. If you tell him to man up and give him more hurt, he might hurt someone else, is what I've learned. And I really love what my uncle is doing. It's so inspiring because some of these men too, they're widows. They're raising their children by themselves. And that's a whole nother struggle that we haven't been talking about. It's just like single parents as men, at least in Canada, some people look down on them or they think that they're incompetent, that they can't raise their children right. But I think that needs to change. They're like men that step up and raise their children. Those are extremely powerful men. And I'm so grateful for them because they're being there for their child even when their mother's not there. And the presence of a mother is super important. I've lost my own and kind of taught me that we need to have that respect for our parents, but just to recognize like the good work that single parents do. And I guess that's it for me. Hayden, do you quickly want to jump in and say more?
Yeah, but no, I think this is awesome. Like I've said, this is really cool. I never expected this many people that are kind of doing the good work and stuff. So, and coming from a good place. So yeah, I'm super excited, and hopefully I get to see you guys again because this is awesome.
Likewise, thank you.